Do you guys remember the Noid? Domino's old advertising mascot that was this little claymation character made by Will Vinton? Yeah, remember all the little misadventures he'd get into with trying to stop people from eating at Domino's by trying to make their pizza terrible and unappetizing? Alright, good. Now do you also remember ITV Digital's famous Monkey and Owl ad campaign? This one, probably not so much unless you're a longtime fan of the channel. That, or you're from the UK and were alive when these were airing, so yeah, I guess it could be either one, they're not mutually exclusive. But take these two ad campaigns, combine them together, and suck out all the charm, and what do you get? Bad Andy. This is Domino's worst ad campaign that I could find. Yes, that means it's worse than the Noid and whatever bland corporate crap they have now. So that's gonna be fun. Get ready to bask in the unadulterated what of Bad Andy, Domino's worst ad campaign of them all. To start off, Bad Andy was created in the absence of the Noid. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sorry to bring this information to light, but to skip over all the bad stuff at least as much as possible, there was a guy named Kenneth Lamar Noid that thought that the Noid advertisements were making fun of him specifically, so he decided to go crazy and hurt a bunch of people. Yeah, look up that story on your own time, that's not something we want to talk about here. So Domino's immediately retired the Noid, but they were without a mascot for quite a while. And that's where Andy comes into the picture. First being released in the year 2000, Andy was basically if the Noid was working on the inside. Basically a double agent, someone who's trying to make Domino's suck from within Domino's itself. Sort of. Andy's this undefinable creature created by the Jim Henson Workshop, and he is the worst Domino's employee of all time. His co-workers have to clean up his mess time and time again. When Domino's is slammed, he ends up photocopying their pizzas, but uh-oh, that's not good because Domino's always has quality, they never rush their product. Keep in mind, this is back in the era when Domino's sucked, so make of that what you will. There's a bunch of orders being called out and the heating plates inside the bags are missing, so what are they gonna do? They're gonna go look for them and surprise, Andy's turned them into his own personal sauna. Andy. They're having a new special with their cinnamon sticks. Andy says they're free. There's a buy one get one free special. Andy becomes a kleptomaniac. I think you see where this is going. On the surface, these ads sound okay at worst and pretty good at best. They, in theory, have some interesting concepts that, in theory, show off the best parts of Domino's with, in theory, a lovable character who can tie the whole thing together. And keep in mind, I said, in theory, because in practice, these did not work. I'm a sucker for old ads. That's one of the reasons why I have this giant VHS collection that's about 1,700 right now, and it's only growing. Somebody help me. My strange addiction. Help. But one of the tapes I have from Two Rivers, Wisconsin shows off these ads in full display, and I was not impressed. Something about them felt off. It took me a little while to figure it out, and a lot of help from Billy, but we managed to pinpoint the 3 reasons why this thing failed. Number 1, the tone is really off. So, I think you can tell from the clips that we've shown in the review, but there's a very sitcom-y feel to these commercials, which isn't bad. It's just that it doesn't really fit with their style. Everything's really hokey and goofy and over the top, but it doesn't feel warranted, so in response, everything feels like overacting and therefore could be perceived as disingenuous, like the whole thing is just fake and corporate. And I get it, it's Domino's, they're a corporation, they can be fake and corporate, but not in their ads. The ads are supposed to entice you, you're supposed to want to come to Domino's. Does stuff like this really make you want to go there? It doesn't for me. And because of the overacting, the jokes never seem to land. When Andy gets called out by his coworkers, it doesn't feel strong enough. It doesn't really land a punch. They're not yelling at somebody or talking down to someone they're disappointed in. They're not even really showing that they're miserable. Instead, it more feels like they're trying to correct a 3-year-old, and I don't know about you, but I don't really think that's all too funny.
Andy, we can't deliver hot pizzas without these cores.
Andy, those sockets are only supposed to be used for Domino's heat wave bags.
Andy, 2 times Tuesdays for pizza. Hey, I know we're busy, but we still make all of our pizzas by hand.
I hate to quote the nostalgia critic, trust me, I really, really do, but comedy is derived from misery, and no one's really miserable here, it's just Andy doing stupid stuff and people going, Andy, come on now. Or the occasional, Andy, don't do that. Not helping is point number 2, it shows Domino's in a bad light. Tell me, friends, What is the point of running an ad? It's to show the best parts of your service or business and enticing people to come and give you their hard-earned money in exchange for your goods or service. Would you want to do that with a company that looks unprofessional and sloppy and sometimes even dangerous? No. The thing is that these ads make a token attempt to show why Domino's is good. They have a buy one get one free deal. They have delivery bags with heating pads and all that sort of stuff. But the thing is, you can't really focus on it because in order to get anything from these ads that's remotely positive, you have to analyze it or dig for it, and that's not what an ad should do. What do I mean by this? All of the ads seem to focus on Andy's little stunt over whatever Domino's does right. And keep in mind, what Andy does is the wrong thing to do, what a Domino's employee should never be. But they don't really correct him. All they do is give one line saying, hey, we have good quality, or hey, we have a special going on, and that's about it. It's blink and you miss it, even for an ad that only lasts for 30 seconds. So it almost feels like they were trying to go for a reverse psychology thing, but it didn't work. And then there's the third problem. Andy stinks. I can tell you, the ad campaign's name, Bad Andy, definitely rings true, but not for the reason they thought. While yes, Andy's a bad employee, he's also a bad mascot. For one, what even is he? Is he a monkey? Is he a bear? Is he a chowder? I don't know, but that's the least of our problems. He's obnoxious. He doesn't really talk, he just spouts off annoying noises.
Calm out.
Kind of like what a lot of people got at the Noid for, but at least the Noid was charming in his own way. Andy is definitely not. He's also inconsistent as a character because in some ads, he's willfully doing his job terribly and is just being lazy and a jerk. Other times, he's blissfully misguided and unaware of what's going on, and he's trying to do the right thing, but he just can't do it. And if any of you are balking at my reasons for not liking Bad Andy, just know that I'm not alone. These are all the reasons that people cited for not liking Bad Andy. And in fact, while this campaign was going on, Domino's sales dropped an enormous 2%. Look, I know that's not a lot, but to corporations that love the almighty dollar, it's time to hit the panic button. According to Executive Vice President of Brand Marketing for Domino's, Patrick Doyle, we need a back-to-basics approach. Bad Andy simply didn't get the job done for us. Or how's about this quote from marketing executive Elizabeth Goodgold? Domino's Pizza unceremoniously pulled its Bad Andy campaign earlier this year. And while the company website said the move was based on a shift in advertising focus from pizza preparation to delivery, TV viewers knew the real reason. Bad Andy was annoying. He was obnoxious. Bad Andy got some of the highest dislikability ratings of any spokes character in the history of advertising. Yikes, that's real bad, guys. That's real bad. And of course, even though he was really unpopular, that didn't stop Bad Andy from getting a bunch of merchandise. Things like stickers and even a plush doll. I tried to get one for this review, but there just seems to be none out there anymore. I can't find one anywhere, so yeah, sorry guys, you'll have to make do with a picture. I guess that's another thing he had in common with ITV Digital now that I think of it. You know what? Speaking of ITV Digital, there's something I want to bring up. On paper, these ad campaigns are kind of the same. Think about it. They both have a puppet as their central character bouncing off humans, or in ITV Digital's case, human. They're about 30 seconds in length that kind of have a quirky, weird sitcom-ish edge, and they try to weave in the best parts of their product all through natural conversation. So, yeah, they sound like they're the same, but ITV Digital did it so much better. For one, they actually make you aware of the good things that ITV Digital has to offer, but not really, because in actuality ITV Digital stinks, so yeah, make of that what you will. But it was obvious what all the features were, but they weren't super blunt and obvious about it. They didn't bash you in over the head, it was all part of the natural flow of the conversation between Monkey and Al. At least early on, because later when ITV Digital started to flounder, they got a little bit desperate.
Anything you don't want?
We don't want or can't have a satellite dish attached to our Des Des.
As mentioned before, Bad Andy couldn't do it. You had to look for the good parts about Domino's or really listen closely, and people don't want to do that, especially when they already don't like your ad. They both had a sitcom approach, but I'd say that ITV Digital was more like My Name is Earl or The Office, while Bad Andy was more like Three's Company. And I like Three's Company, just not in this case. They also had a puppet mascot character, but here's the thing. ITV Digital worked to make Monkey lovable. They put effort into making you want to buy his merch. For Bad Andy, it feels like it's the other way around, especially given how hated of a character he was by the general public. It feels like a very foolish move to make any merch off of him, except if you really stop to think. Why did they do this? Because they thought Bad Andy was going to be a beloved, marketable character. It didn't matter that he was annoying or didn't really have a consistent personality. He was a goofy puppet, and people love goofy puppets. So obviously the general public is gonna fill up their entire closets with Bad Andy merch. That's how it works, right? They thought of him as a marketing tool so hard that they forgot to make him actually good. And of course, it's good marketing that gets good results and bad marketing that gets bad results. I can't believe I actually have to explain that. I really can't. Also, is it just me, or am I the only one that has a problem with Andy being a puppet? It doesn't really seem to fit with what they're going for. I actually think it'd be funnier if he was a live-action human. You know, just some guy who doesn't talk but has wild and crazy exaggerated faces. I think that would have fit with the style a lot more and, hey, maybe even made it a lot funnier. It still wouldn't be effective in its messaging, but at least it would be more palatable. Especially since the puppet can't really emote. I mean, look at those eyes. Those dead eyes. No, it's all wrong. It's all wrong. I think you can see why I say that Bad Andy was a failure, no matter which way you slice it. It wasn't fun, it wasn't funny, and it wasn't informative. Honestly, it was just kind of a waste of ad space. Luckily, Domino's got the hint and they shaped up their marketing, but they'll always have Bad Andy as a bad stain on their advertising record. One that not even the Noid could create. Except for that other incident that we talked about in the beginning, but let's move on to happier stuff. Like the outro. Well, folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? What did you think of the Bad Andy campaign, if you've actually seen it? And also, what do you think of Domino's? Was it good now and bad then? Was it bad always, or what? Comment below and let us know, because we're always excited to hear what you guys have to say. And now, it's that time again. Time to thank our Patreon executive producers, Leaf Razor, Valkyria, Whoop-Doo, MD the Dude, Blackjack, Nightingale Wednesday Nightmare, Unkale, Manny Paradas, H.R. Hoffman, and Edward Haas. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then consider donating to our Patreon, which, by the way, has a link in the description below. There's also a link to our brand new subreddit, so yeah, check it out. And now, my beautiful friends, it's time for the comment of the day. And yes, I do mean beautiful friends, because each and every one of you, even those who post those silly negative comments, you too are beautiful, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Anyways, today's comment of the day comes courtesy from Cars Perry. It's very clear that Jim Henson, like Stanley Kubrick, had overarching themes that were conveyed in his films. The difference being that Henson suffered a typecast after the 60s and especially the 70s, where Kubrick never had that problem. Now, speaking about this, I actually wish we got a movie that was a co-production between Henson and Kubrick. On the other hand, it might be a nightmare for Henson to work on, and he would probably never want to work with Kubrick again. Yeah, Kubrick was, let's just say, an interesting guy, but I've never actually noticed the parallels between the two beforehand. They're both visionaries that definitely wanted to do things their way. They revolutionized their mediums, but Jim Henson was never really allowed to do what he wanted to do. He wasn't just the Muppet or Sesame Street guy, he also wanted to make the Neverending Story 3. I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, it's kind of heartbreaking to see him try brand new things like the Dark Crystal and then, oh no, it's too scary. We can't have that until Netflix comes around and revives it. I actually don't know if it's really good or not. Billy would know better than me. He's the Muppet expert on this channel, and he's also the resident Shrek-spert. Thanks for watching, folks, and we'll see you guys next time, okay? Bye-bye.